The invitation. The Celestial Assembly's space station orbited at the edge of known space, a monument to what its builders called enlightened civilization. Its crystalline spires caught starlight from 3 different galaxies, casting rainbow patterns across the void. Today marked a historic moment as humanity would finally meet the species that had been sending peaceful signals to Earth for the past decade. Ambassador Cale Revan stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel, UES Harmony, watching the station grow larger. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his gray eyes took in every detail. Behind him, his aide Lieutenant Maya Patel organized the gifts humanity had brought. Musical instruments from every culture on Earth, preserved foods that told the story of human agriculture, and holographic art that captured the beauty of their blue world. The docking procedure was smooth and elegant. As the airlock hissed open, Cale found himself face to face with beings that looked like they had stepped from humanity's wildest dreams. The Celestial Assembly's greeting committee consisted of 12 different species, each more remarkable than the last. Supreme Coordinator Yellick stood at the front, a tall creature with translucent skin that showed patterns of light flowing beneath like living constellations. Its voice resonated with harmonics that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the soul. Welcome, children of Earth. We have watched your species with great interest. Your journey from planetary confinement to the stars has been remarkable to observe. Cale bowed respectfully, a gesture he had practiced to show neither submission nor aggression. The honor is ours, Supreme Coordinator. Humanity has long wondered if we were alone in the universe. Your invitation brings hope to billions of human hearts. The welcoming hall was a marvel of architecture that seemed to defy physics. Gravity shifted subtly in different areas, allowing species with various needs to move comfortably. The walls displayed scenes from hundreds of worlds, each showing peaceful cities and flourishing civilizations. It was paradise made manifest. During the feast that followed, Cale was introduced to various member species. The Quellans were artists who painted with living light. The Braxoids were engineers who had built structures that could survive inside stars. The gentle Mirren were telepathic healers who had eliminated disease from 50 worlds. Each species spoke of the peace and prosperity the Assembly had brought them. Sub-Minister Grex of the Hadari leaned close to Cale during a quiet moment. The reptilian being's scales shifted color as it spoke in carefully measured tones. Your species shows such promise, Ambassador. Once you complete the integration process, Earth will know peace like never before. No more wars, no more hunger, no more suffering. The Assembly provides all. Cale smiled and nodded, but something in Grex's tone made him uncomfortable. Tell me about this integration process. Our scientists are eager to learn about your methods of maintaining such harmony among diverse species. Grex's scales flickered to a darker shade for just a moment. The Assembly has perfected methods of helping species overcome their primitive instincts. Some call it behavioral harmonization. Your people will undergo gentle conditioning to remove aggressive tendencies. Within a single generation, humans will be as peaceful as the Mirren. Lieutenant Patel, who had been listening while pretending to admire a sculpture, caught Cale's eye. They had prepared for this possibility. Earth's psychologists and sociologists had warned that any civilization claiming to have eliminated conflict entirely was either lying or had done something terrible to achieve it. As the celebration continued, Cale began to notice things that others might miss. The serving staff all came from the same few species, always the smaller, weaker-looking ones. They moved with an efficiency that seemed almost mechanical, never making eye contact, never speaking unless spoken to. When one server, a small furry creature called a vixen, accidentally spilled a drink, the fear in its eyes was unmistakable. Later, Cale found himself in conversation with scholar Nexia of the Sing Collective. The being looked like a floating cloud of crystallized thought, its form constantly shifting as it spoke. We maintain extensive archives of all member species, documenting their journey from chaos to order. Perhaps you would like to see the records of successful integrations. Cale expressed eager interest, and Nexia led him to a viewing chamber. The holographic displays showed world after world accepting Assembly rule, but Cale's trained eye caught what others might miss. The timestamps on the integrations were always preceded by periods marked as pacification intervals. Population numbers dropped dramatically during these periods, sometimes by as much as 60%. These pacification intervals, Kale asked carefully. They seemed to involve significant population changes. Were these natural disasters? Nexia's crystalline form flickered. Some species require more assistance than others in understanding the benefits of peace. The Assembly has methods to help stubborn populations accept harmony. It is always regrettable when force becomes necessary, but the end result justifies the means. A peaceful galaxy is worth any price. That evening, Kale met privately with his team in their quarters. The rooms were luxurious beyond imagination, but they had found and disabled 17 different types of monitoring devices. Speaking in code they had developed for this possibility, they compared observations. Maya Patel had discovered that the Assembly's economic system was built on resource extraction from newer member worlds. The core species lived in abundance while recent additions labored endlessly to supply them. Dr. Chen, their xenobiologist, had noticed that several serving species showed signs of genetic modification, changes that seemed designed to make them more docile and obedient. Most disturbing was the discovery made by Commander Torres, their military advisor who had come disguised as a cultural attaché. He had found references to something called the Silence Protocol. 12 species that had refused integration had not just been conquered, they had been completely erased. Their worlds were stripped bare, their cultures eliminated, their very existence removed from all records except the most secure archives. The next day brought new revelations. During a tour of the Assembly's military museum, meant to show how warfare was now obsolete, Kyle saw the truth hiding in plain sight. The pacification fleets were massive. The weapons designed to enforce peace were capable of cracking planets. This was not a defensive force. It was an armada built for conquest. Supreme Coordinator Yellick seemed pleased with humanity's apparent enthusiasm for joining the Assembly. Your species adapts so quickly to new concepts. Some newcomers struggle with the idea of surrendering sovereignty, but you seem to understand that individual freedom is a small price for collective harmony. Kyle forced himself to smile. Humanity has always dreamed of peace. If surrendering some autonomy means no more children die in wars, most humans would consider it worthwhile. Excellent. Yellick's lights pulsed with satisfaction. The integration fleet will arrive at Earth in 6 months. Your population will be cataloged, your resources assessed, and the behavioral modification centers established. Within 5 Earth years, humanity will be fully integrated. The words integration fleet sent a chill down Kale's spine, but he maintained his composure. Such efficiency. I assume the process has been refined over many successful integrations? Yellick made what might have been a laugh. Oh yes, we learned much from our early mistakes. The Andori fought for 3 years before accepting integration. The Kelvin Alliance managed 5 years of resistance, but our methods have improved. Most species now accept their place within days of the fleet's arrival. That evening, Kale stood at his quarters viewport, looking out at the stars. Earth hung out there somewhere, blue and vulnerable, its 8 billion inhabitants unaware that they had just been scheduled for conquest. But humanity had not come here unprepared. The peaceful diplomatic mission was only one part of Earth's response to first contact. He activated his quantum communicator, sending a coded message that would reach Earth in hours rather than years. The message was simple. Protocol 7 confirmed. The Assembly is hostile. Prepare accordingly. As he watched the stars, Kale thought about the choice humanity faced. They could submit, accept modification, and become another servant species in the Assembly's false paradise. Or they could reveal what Earth had been building in secret for the past decade, ever since they had decoded the hidden threats in the Assembly's supposedly peaceful messages. The Assembly believed humans were just another primitive species ready to be absorbed. They had no idea that humanity had spent its entire history perfecting the art of warfare, not because humans loved violence, but because they had learned that sometimes the only way to preserve freedom was to be strong enough that no one dared try to take it away. Tomorrow would bring new tours, new attempts to convince humanity of the benefits of integration. Kyle would smile and nod and continue gathering intelligence. But soon, very soon, the Assembly would learn why humanity had survived every challenge Earth had thrown at them. They would learn why human history was written in both poetry and blood, why humans could create beautiful art while also building weapons that could burn stars. The Assembly had made one critical mistake. They had assumed humanity's desire for peace meant weakness. They had never considered that humans might desire peace but prepare for war, hope for friendship but plan for betrayal. Most of all, they had never imagined that a species barely out of its home system might have spent the last decade building something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The revelation 6 months had passed since Ambassador Cale Revan's first meeting with the Celestial Assembly. Earth's skies now hosted an impressive sight as 30 massive assembly vessels hung in orbit, their hulls gleaming with the same ethereal beauty as their space station. To most humans watching from below, they looked like angels come to usher in a new age of peace. Only a select few knew the truth about what these ships really represented. Supreme Coordinator Yelix's holographic form stood 10 meters tall above the United Nations building in New York, simultaneously broadcast to every screen on Earth. People of Earth, today marks your graduation from isolated primitives to members of the galactic community. Our integration fleet brings gifts of technology, medicine, and wisdom. All we ask in return is your cooperation in the harmonization process. The crowds gathered in cities worldwide, cheered and celebrated. The Assembly had spent months broadcasting propaganda directly to Earth's population, showing the paradise that awaited them. They had not noticed that Earth's governments had been unusually cooperative, almost eager to assist in preparing for integration. In a secure bunker 500 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the displays with grim satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Assembly's fleet had positioned themselves exactly where Earth's strategists had predicted, clustered in neat formations that maximized their intimidation factor while minimizing their tactical flexibility. "Are all Prometheus contingents ready?" she asked her staff. Colonel Martinez nodded. "All 17 battleships are in position, Admiral. The Assembly sensors haven't detected them. The stealth technology is performing beyond expectations." The Prometheus project had been humanity's greatest secret. When Earth's scientists had first detected the Assembly's signals 10 years ago, they had found more than just greetings hidden in the data. Buried in the mathematical proofs and cultural exchanges were subtle threats and evidence of conquered worlds. Humanity had pretended to be excited about first contact while secretly preparing for invasion. The breakthrough had come from an unlikely source. A young physicist named David Park had discovered that the Assembly's own transmission technology could be reverse-engineered to create a cloaking field that made objects invisible to their sensors. While the Assembly thought humans were barely managing to build primitive spacecraft, Earth had constructed a fleet of battleships using every advancement human ingenuity could devise. Back in New York, Yelix was explaining the integration process to Earth's leaders. "First, we will establish behavioral modification centers in your major cities. Your population will be processed in order of their resistance levels. Those who accept harmony quickly will be rewarded with positions in the new order. Those who resist will require more intensive treatment." President Martinez of the Americas Union stood at the podium, her face calm despite the rage burning in her heart. She had lost her grandfather to war and had dedicated her life to peace. But she understood that peace without freedom was just another form of death. "Supreme Coordinator, Earth accepts your terms. We have prepared our population centers as requested. Our people await transformation." Yelix's lights pulsed with pleasure. "Excellent. You are more cooperative than most species. Begin transporting your citizens to the designated areas. The modification process will commence in 12 hours. Around the world, humans began moving toward the assembly points. The Assembly's scouts reported complete compliance, not noticing that the humans were following evacuation protocols that had been practiced in secret for months. Essential populations were moving to hardened shelters while volunteer forces took their places in the cities. In orbit, Captain James Wilson sat in the command chair of UES Prometheus Alpha, humanity's first true battleship. His vessel was 300 meters of angular armor and weapons, deliberately designed to be the opposite of the Assembly's aesthetic beauty. Where they built with curves and light, humans had built with edges and shadows. Where they displayed their power openly, humans had hidden theirs in darkness. "All stations report ready, Captain," his tactical officer reported. "The Assembly fleet is beginning to deploy their modification satellites." Wilson watched the alien vessels spread out, each one moving to hover over a major city. They were so confident, so assured of their superiority. They had conquered hundreds of species who had tried to resist with primitive weapons and desperate courage. They had never faced a species that had turned deception into an art form. Admiral Chen's voice came through the quantum communicator. All Prometheus vessels, this is command. You are authorized to begin Operation Liberation. Decloak and engage. Wilson took a breath, thinking of his daughter on Earth below. She would grow up free. Or she would not grow up at all. Helm, drop the cloak. Weapons, target the assembly command ship's engines. Let's show them what humanity learned from 10,000 years of warfare. The space above Earth suddenly filled with angular shadows as 17 human battleships appeared from nothing. The assembly's perfect formations dissolved into chaos as captains who had never faced real opposition tried to understand what was happening. The Prometheus Alpha's main gun spoke first, a magnetically accelerated slug traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. It struck the assembly command ship's engine section, tearing through shields designed to stop energy weapons but useless against pure kinetic force. The massive vessel lurched, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. Yelix's hologram flickered above New York, its harmonious voice replaced with something like panic. What is this? Your species does not possess such technology. This is impossible. President Martinez stepped forward, her voice carrying across all frequencies. You made a mistake, Yelix. You thought our desire for peace meant we were weak. You thought our young age meant we were naive. But humanity has survived Ice Age's plagues and world wars. We have learned that peace must be enforced by strength, that freedom must be defended with blood. The battle in orbit was not a fight. It was a demonstration. The assembly's ships had weapons designed to pacify primitive species, to destroy cities and break spirits. Human ships had weapons designed to kill other warships. The assembly fired beams of energy that sparkled beautifully as they dissipated against human armor. Humans fired projectiles that punched through alien hulls like paper. But humanity's true genius was not in their weapons. It was in their tactics. Each battleship deployed smaller craft, fighters that swarmed the larger assembly vessels like angry hornets. These were piloted by humans who had trained in secret for years, studying every piece of tactical data Kale's mission had gathered. Commander Lisa Thompson led Fighter Squadron 7, her craft dancing between the assembly's defensive fire. Her target was a modification satellite preparing to deploy over Beijing. These satellites carried the nanomachines that would rewrite human DNA, turning them into docile servants. She locked onto the satellite and fired, watching it explode in a brief flower of light. Similar scenes played out across the orbital battlefield. The assembly's fleet, which had conquered scores of worlds, was being systematically dismantled by a species that had barely left its home system. But the real shock was yet to come. In the chaos of battle, few noticed the small pods launching from the human battleships. These were not weapons but messenger capsules, designed to penetrate the assembly station's defenses and deliver a very specific payload. Each one carried video footage of the battle, along with a message in every known galactic language. To all species under assembly rule, the humans of Earth stand against tyranny. We offer you freedom, rise up. The assembly's fleet burns above our world. Their power is broken. Today the galaxy learns a new word: liberation. The message spread through the assembly's own communication network like wildfire. On 100 worlds, species that had lived under assembly rule for generations saw something they had never imagined possible: their oppressors losing. The reaction was immediate and volcanic. On the factory world of Kepler 442b, Vixen workers who had labored for decades without hope suddenly stopped their machines. Their overseers, members of the assembly's ruling species, found themselves surrounded by workers who had just learned that resistance was possible. On the agricultural world of Proxima 3, the Andori, who had been forced to feed the assembly's core worlds for 3 generations, began destroying the harvest meant for their oppressors. They had been told their defeat was complete, their resistance futile. Now they knew that was a lie. Back in Earth orbit, Supreme Coordinator Yelix's command ship was dying. Multiple hull breaches, engines destroyed, weapons offline. The being that had commanded the subjugation of dozens of species was reduced to pleading over the communication channels. Please, this is madness. Without the assembly's order, the galaxy will descend into chaos. Species will war against each other. Billions will die. Admiral Chen's response was broadcast on all frequencies. You're wrong, Yelix. There's a difference between peace and oppression, between order and slavery. Yes, freedom is chaotic, Yes, species will conflict, but they will also cooperate by choice, not force. They will achieve peace through understanding, not through behavioral modification. As the last assembly ship fell silent, its crew surrendering rather than face destruction, humanity sent a new message to the galaxy. This one was not a call to arms, but an invitation. To all free species of the galaxy, Earth extends its hand in friendship. We offer not rule but partnership, not modification but acceptance. We have proven that tyranny can be defeated, that freedom can be won. Join us not as subjects but as equals. Together we will build a galaxy where peace comes from choice, not chains. The response was beyond anything Earth had imagined. Within hours, ships from liberated worlds began arriving at the edge of Earth's system. They came not as conquerors or supplicants, but as free beings seeking alliance with the species that had broken their chains. The Andori brought their knowledge of agriculture that could feed worlds without destroying them. The Vixen offered their skills in microscopic engineering. The Kelvin Alliance, which had fought the Assembly for 5 years before falling, emerged from hiding with military technologies they had preserved in secret. But perhaps the most surprising response came from some members of the Assembly's own ruling species. Sub-Minister Grex of the Hadari was among the first to break ranks. The reptilian being's message was simple. Not all of us believed in the Assembly's methods. We were as trapped by the system as those we oppressed. Earth has shown us another way. We ask for the chance to earn forgiveness and help build something better. As the sun set on the day that changed galactic history, President Martinez stood before the United Nations with representatives from 17 different species. The building that had once hosted only human nations now welcomed beings from across the stars. Today humanity has passed its greatest test, she said, her voice carrying to billions of humans and aliens alike. We were offered a false peace, a cage dressed as paradise. We could have accepted it, could have surrendered our freedom for comfort. Instead, we chose the harder path. We chose to fight not just for ourselves, but for every species suffering under tyranny. She paused, looking at the alien faces that watched her with expressions of hope, gratitude, and newfound respect. But this victory is not an ending. It is a beginning. The hard work starts now. Building true peace based on mutual respect and freedom will take generations. There will be setbacks, conflicts, and challenges we cannot imagine. But we will face them together as equals, as partners, as friends. The assembly erupted in celebration, sounds from a dozen different species mixing into a chorus of joy. But in the noise and excitement, few noticed Ambassador Cale Revan standing quietly in the corner, speaking with Scholar Nexia of the Sing Collective. The crystalline being's form flickered with something like embarrassment. I must apologize, Ambassador. We truly believed the Assembly's way was the only path to peace. Your species has shown us that we were prisoners of our own limited thinking. Cale smiled, the expression genuine for the first time in months. No apology needed, Scholar. Every species makes mistakes. The measure of a civilization is not whether it falls, but whether it learns to rise. The Assembly fell because it forgot that peace without freedom is not peace at all. Now we all have the chance to build something better. As Earth's first night as a truly free member of the galactic community began, the planet's defenders stood down from battle stations. The Prometheus battleships, which had hidden in darkness to preserve freedom, now openly patrolled Earth's skies as protectors of a new alliance. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of the Celestial Assembly's enforced harmony was over. In its place rose something more chaotic but more genuine, a community of free species choosing to work together, to disagree and debate, to conflict and reconcile. And at the heart of it all was Earth, the young world that had reminded the galaxy of a truth as old as the stars themselves. True peace can only exist where beings are free to choose it. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. They had shown that sometimes the greatest act of peace is the willingness to fight for freedom.